Hello everyone and welcome back. So far we found the minimum amount of Void Rod uses for Void Stranger Grey and Lev, and now all that's left is Void Stranger Lilith, aka hard mode. But firstly, I want to thank you for all the support on the first two videos. This channel is just a hobby, but if it weren't for you I definitely wouldn't make this video, let alone do this challenge. And if you haven't watched the first two videos, I recommend you at least watch the Grey video because we're reusing the rules from that run with one exception. We're allowed to be voided this time, which is only a positive thing and will have no negative effects or miss out content later. Trust me. I should have said this earlier, but I plan on going in numerical order of brains this time instead of least to most Void Rod uses, and I'll also be skimming over identical brains. Anyways, let's get into this. Brain 1 is identical to the base game at 0. Brain 2 is also identical as well, but unfortunately I'm not smart enough to solve it and I perish. I'm forced to take the through and then I solve in the 2 Void Rod uses. Brain 3 is similar to the normal mode version by being solvable on 0 even with the menacing shape. Brain 4 is our first increase from 2 to 4 since we have to get rid of that menacing shape. Brain 5 is similar to normal mode where it only requires 2 Void Rod uses, but it requires us to pick up this specific tile instead. Brain 6 is the beginning of my worst enemy in this run, bridging segments. They always raise the count so much and make me feel like I'm playing wrong, and it only gets worse when shades are added. Also, this brain takes 16 Void Rod uses. Brain 7 is rather uninteresting at 6 Void Rod uses, and Brain 8 requires 0 Void Rod uses. Brain 9 is a puzzle archetype that we'll be seeing a lot of, that being red herring Lev statues. That said, 2 Void Rod uses. Brain 10 is a refreshing generic Sokoban level that I'm glad to see, and I choose to pick up the Locust here which will have no consequences later. 0 Void Rod uses. Brain 11 is a mimic puzzle that requires bridging which will hopefully not come back later. 14 Void Rod uses. Brain 12 is an easy 2 Void Rod brain, and Brain 13 is an easy 4 Void Rod brain. Brain 14 took me a while, but I'm fairly confident it requires 12 Void Rod uses. Brain 15 was one that took me an embarrassingly long time to clear at 4 Void Rod uses. Brain 16, 17 and 18 I was all able to solve in under 30 seconds with no Void Rod uses. Brain 19 is another bridging brain that took me 8 Void Rod uses. Brain 20 is our first of many difficulty spikes, but besides general difficulty, it only takes 2 more Void Rod uses at normal, that being 12. Brain 21 is a simple 2 Void Rod puzzle, and Brain 22 is one of many brains where the puzzle is the same as normal mode, but you can't use the Void Rod at all, which obviously doesn't affect us. Brain 23 is identical at 0, Brain 24 is a simple 4 Void Rod puzzle, and Brain 25 is identical at 0 Void Rod uses. Brain 26 takes 4 Void Rod uses, and lastly, Brain 27 is our first taste of shade bridging puzzles, but luckily it only takes us 10 Void Rod uses, and B28 is identical to the original with 0 Void Rod uses. Brains 29 and 30 are both identical to the original at 0 Void Rod uses. But I do want to point out that the brain that Tail sits on is actually the brain that the Void Lord statue normally appears on. Brain 31 is a rather annoying puzzle that I solved on accident with 6 Void Rod uses. But Brain 32 is an incredibly annoying puzzle, and I really hoped it wouldn't come to this, but the solution is bridging and it takes 22 Void Rod uses. Unluckily for my sanity, the next 6 brains are all bridging brains. B33 takes 12 Void Rod uses, and B34 takes 20. As a silver lining, B35 is one of those brains that's the same as the base game, but with Lev statues. Brain 36 and 37 are painful hellholes that take 32 and 48 Void Rod uses respectively. Brain 38 is still pretty bad, but it's not nearly as bad as the ones before at 18 Void Rod uses. And I'm not sure if it counts, but Brain 39 is another bridging brain that takes 20 Void Rod uses. Brain 40 is practically a gift from God himself with its layout. You'll see me get sick of brains where you can tell how many Void Rod uses it takes at first glance later, but this is a breath of fresh air that only takes 1 Void Rod use. If Brain 40 was a gift from God, then B41 is definitive proof he's real with an easy 0 Void Rod use brain. Anyways, B42 was another shade bridging brain and my day has been ruined. 14 void rod uses. Okay, I was just checking my notes and brain 43, I read it as brain B43. Anyways, B43 is the highest void rod count in the game at 60. Though due to its nature as a bridging brain, it can possibly be lower. If I have to say anything extra, I'm actually very shocked it's here and not in like Sif's brain or something. Brains 44 and 45 are both easy levels that only take 2 void rod uses. Brain 46 is an easy 1 void rod use brain, and then brain 47 is a decently complicated 2 void rod brain, followed by brain 48, which is just another easy 0 void rod brain. Brain 49 took me a while, but only takes 1 void rod use. Brain 50 also took me a while, but unlike B49 it took me 30 void rod uses. I don't have much to say on B51, it's a fairly complicated brain that took me 12 void rod uses. Wait a minute, if that was B51 then that means... So for those of you who don't know, which is everyone besides 2 of my friends, I spent 3 hours on B52 hard mode when I was trying to collect all the memory fragments, before I gave up and skipped the brain of locusts. This was with burdens. And also a little fun fact for you guys, this brain is not the one that took me longest to beat in this video, but after what felt like years I was able to solve the brain in 56 void rod uses. B53 is a duplicate brain that takes 0 void rod uses. I quote unquote solved it so fast that I thought I forgot to record it. B54 took me a hot minute, but I was able to solve it in 2 void rod uses, and the same goes with B55. And lastly, B56 is identical at 0 void rod uses. And I have to say, holy shit is this domain hellish, and it only gets better technically. Brains 57 and 58 are both identical at 0 void rod uses. For brain 59 we press right once, which costs us 0 void rod uses. B60 and B61 are both brains where the puzzle is leading beavers into each other, that both take 0 void rod uses. Brain 62 is infamous, at least to me, but I have to say watching the footage back I thought it was solvable in less than 5 void rod uses, so I went all the way back to check. But I was wrong, it only takes 5 void rod uses. Remember approximately 5 minutes ago, where I said that picking up locusts would have no consequences later? Well, I both lied and I didn't lie. It did have consequences, but only because I'm an idiot. At the time, I believed that because I am voided, I wouldn't be able to lower my locust count on the gore brain, where I have to use a smile statue to go to the next brain. However, you can use the famished souls to lower your locust count when voided. But I forgot about this at the time and replayed the entire game up to this point in order to reset my locust count to 0, due to this brain requiring you to open the chest to solve it. But besides that, this brain isn't that bad and only takes 7 void rod uses. Brain 64 and 65 are the same as the original, except you have to kill all of the beavers this time. B64 takes 4 void rod uses and B65 takes 1. Brain 66 is another menacing shape brain, which took me 8 void rod uses. B67 is identical with 4 void rod uses. B68 is a trick brain that requires you to move the stairs from the Atona statue, which takes 4 void rod uses. Brain 69 takes 2 less than the original at a 1 void rod use. I distinctly remember hating Brain 70, but rewatching the footage it doesn't seem that bad and only takes 12 void rod uses. Here we have another iconic brain. B71 is a brain that I find funny in retrospect, because there's pretty much an exact copy of it in the EX mode, but for some reason it represents 10 even though the original is in Eus Domain. That aside, this brain takes 6 void rod uses. Brain 72 is a boring 16 void rod use brain. Brain 73 is a brain that I thought I'd have more to say, but I really don't. It's just a difficult 10 void rod brain. Okay, I just checked my notes. Apparently the thing I was thinking about was my friends failing to schedule watching the FNAF 2 movie. Brain 47 I was able to solve quickly in 0 void rod uses. Brain 75 was an old nemesis of the first run, but if you ask me the hard mode version is easier, and it certainly takes less void rod uses at 10. Brain 76 is a low space brain filled with glass and exploit tiles, but after a bit of trial and error I was able to solve it in 10 Voidrod uses. Brains 77 and 78 are both about beavers and both only take 4 Voidrod uses. B79 is a decently challenging brain that takes 0 Voidrod uses. Brain 80 took me a while, as well as 8 Voidrod uses, and I'm starting to remember why I bunched brains in order of how many Voidrod uses they take instead of talking about every single one. Brain 81 is a freebie with 0 Voidrod uses. Watching my footage for B82 is really funny because I did almost every move except for waiting to move the Atona statue after stepping on most of the exploit tiles. 0 Voidrod uses. I wish I didn't have anything to say about B82 because now I have separate voice lines for B81, 82 and 83 even though they all take 0 Voidrod uses. Speaking of 0 Voidrod uses, B84 also takes 0 Voidrod uses, but it's an identical tree brain so it doesn't really matter. B85 is identical, but interestingly B86 is different from the original, despite it being a statue brain. Though it is just another red herring love statue, though maybe you could say it's hinting towards their alliance, but anywho, 2 Voidrod uses. B87 in hard mode is a personal favourite of mine because it plays 2 tricks on you. Firstly, most people accidentally use the Atona statue, then, on return, they will probably try to move the stairs but then get stabbed by the Lev statues. Though after you know the tricks, it's an easy 4 Voidrod use brain. Brain 88 is a very interesting 6 Voidrod use brain. I'm a pretty big fan of this puzzle, but I'm going to take a bet now that this will be the last Mon brain I'm positive about. B89 is an identical brain that still takes 2 Voidrod uses. B90 is one I have a tough time talking about. To me, it's partially one of those brains where you hate playing it but appreciate it after, but I still have some hatred towards this brain despite me kind of liking it, but besides my weird feelings, it takes 10 Voidrod uses. B91 is a 0 Voidrod use Mimic brain, and B92 is a 2 Voidrod use Beaver brain. Brain 93 is a brain where you can tell that it takes 4 Voidrod uses by just looking at it, and to no one's surprise, it takes 4 Voidrod uses. Brain 94 horrified me for a bit because I thought I would have to pick up the Locust in order to solve it, but luckily it didn't and it only takes 18 Voidrod uses. Oh god, uses puzzles have hit me so hard that 18 Voidrod uses seems low. And B95 is a freebie. Brain 96 is another freebie with one special technique required. Make sure not to talk to the bandit if you have a limited number of friends to voice characters. Brain 97 is one of the brains that took me the longest, not nearly as long as B52, but still a while. And while I do like the solution, it just feels really slow. 10 Voidrod uses. B98 has one immovable Lev statue, so it obviously takes 0 Voidrod uses. Brain 99 is an easy 5 Voidrod use brain, and B100 is a Shade Conga Lion brain with a Lev statue and an exploit tile thrown in there for fun. 2 Voidrod uses. Brain 101 is one of the few brains that I just outright dislike. It annoys me that it's a bridging brain disguised as a normal one, and to pack an extra punch to the gut, it takes 24 Voidrod uses. Brain 102 is a leech focused 2 Voidrod brain, B103 is a mimic focused 4 Voidrod brain, and B104 is a beaver focused brain with a satisfying 2 Voidrod use solution. B105 is a freebie that has this disgusting creature spewing some strange words. B106 is a beaver brain solvable in 4 Voidrod uses, and B107 is another beaver brain solvable in 0. B108 is the last difficult brain of the domain, taking 8 Voidrod uses. It's a type brain with a maggot, beaver, and leech, so you know it's a fun one. B109 barely has a puzzle. B110 is like an easy version of B152 that only takes 2 Voidrod uses, and B111 is another mimic puzzle that takes 0 Voidrod uses. And lastly, B112 is an identical tree brain. Can you tell that Eus Domain is my least favourite in the game? Oh boy, Eus Domain. I have to say that at the time I thought this domain was going to be a breath of fresh air due to the puzzles being based around the enemies instead of using the Void Rod. I was mostly right. B113 and 114 are both identical 0 Void Rod use brains. B115 is a tight brain filled with the hand enemies. I thought it was going to be a 4 Void Rod finish, but it actually requires 8. B116 is another freebie, but a pretty fun one. I remember hating the normal mode version of B117. In hard mode, despite taking 12 Void Rod uses instead of 4, I still prefer the hard mode version. Brains 118 and 119 are very difficult brains, but are both unchanged, just with added lev statues. B118 takes 2 Void Rod uses, and B119 takes none. Brain 120 is pretty annoying due to the high amount of exploit tiles and the shade tiles, but it only takes 6 Void Rod uses. B121 is a very painful brain with exploit tiles and strange eye enemies. I sure hope nothing like this appears again, that would be horrible. 16 Void Rod uses. Brain 122 is a pretty simple mimic focus puzzle that takes 6 Void Rod uses, and B123 is a simple freebie. I wrote B123 as a freebie twice. Anyways, B124 is a small focus freebie that's identical to the original but with lev statues. Brain 125 is an easy 2 Void Rod brain where you have to get the enemies to collide into each other. And B126 is identical to the original but with a lev statue, so it's a freebie. B127 is a puzzle that looks way harder than it is. 2 Void Rod uses. Brain 128 has a really fun 0 Void Rod solution, and B129 is very similar to the original, taking 2 Void Rod uses. No, I meant 6. Wait, goddammit. B130 is a very easy puzzle that takes 1 Void Rod use, and B132 is a very not easy puzzle that takes 2 Void Rod uses. B132 is a very fun 0 Void Rod puzzle, and B133 is a very unfun 10 Void Rod puzzle. B134 and 135 are both freebies, and B136 isn't a freebie, but I'm lumping it in here because it was way easier than the original at 4 Void Rod uses. B137 is an identical freebie. Oh boy, 10's domain has been pretty good so far. I wonder why it has a 7 on the pain rating when there's only 2 brains left. Okay, so normally I script everything in these videos. The only time things aren't scripted is when I notice like an error in my thing, or one of my outtakes is so funny I have to keep it. But I cannot script this, because I can just not write down how much I hate this brain, and just deliver it in my usual monotone voice. This is the worst brain I have played in this game, and what sucks is like, it's so easy if you have burdens. My original arch nemesis, I forgot which one it was in Eus Domain, B52 I think. That was the longest the brain's ever taken me at 3 hours. This brain took me 2 days. I've had to splice this part into multiple parts because I just stare at the image of the brain and just think about how much I hate it instead of actually talking about why. Okay, first of all, this brain has made me hate exploit tiles. Second of all, I really thought you would need to pick up the locust to open the chest in order to solve the puzzle, but you don't, and this is when I figured out that you don't. So in the middle of this brain I figured out I replayed the entire first 3 domains for nothing. Also, this brain was so bad I had to do an entire playthrough of Pocket Mirror to cool down. Great game, recommend. Oh my god. If it wasn't for this brain, I would have only had 2 video recordings of this domain, and now I have like 6. It's so bad. I hate it so much. All of this hatred directed towards a 28 Void Rod use brain. Oh, this sucks. This brain sucks. Okay, now that I'm past the part of being angry at that 110 puzzle, I should probably say that it didn't literally take me 2 days total. It probably took me like, I want to say 4 hours, just over 2 days. Well, thank god that's over. B139 is astronomically easier than B138. And hey, look, the kid's back. I wonder if they've developed a voice yet.
Ugh, no one understands my pain. Hey you, can you go away? I'm busy brooding.
Huh? Since when did you have a voice? And for the record, nothing you do will ever be as bad as hard mode B138 burdenless minimum void reducers.
Kill yourself.
Little shit. It's not that deep. I'm the bigger person. Okay, I think now is a good time to talk about the elephant in the room due to its connections to Eus Domain. I've already given a spoiler warning at the start, but if you don't know about the post-game content or just want to get on with the challenge, skip to this timestamp. Okay, so EX mode. It would be the next logical step after this, since this campaign would be like a 4-minute video. However, EX mode is sort of impossible to find the true lowest amount of void reducers without glitches that probably don't exist or breaking into the files. And it's all because of EO2, which as far as I'm aware is the only instance of RNG in the game that isn't in any of the boss fights. So basically, if you've forgotten or you didn't know, in EX mode you gather all of the burdens until you get void memory, where you have to backtrack through the previous veins to talk to the eggs to find the order of enemies you need to kill, which leaves us with 2 parts that make it nigh impossible. First, you technically don't have to backtrack at all, and you can just guess the order of enemies. And if my math is right, which it probably isn't, it's a 1 in 5,040 chance of getting. And for the second problem, which is far less significant, there would be a best order for killing enemies. I'm not entirely sure what it would be, and I really don't want to test, but having the shade tile towards the end would probably be the best. Lastly, I might have some people ask why I don't just do a theoretical version of this run where I get the best formation and don't have to backtrack. And to that I say, it's not really my style. If the EX video does ever come out, which I wouldn't really bank on, it would be because I got Stockholm Syndrome and think this is a great idea, and replaying the same brain 5,040 times is a good idea. At least that way I'd be able to cover the funniest brain in the game. Alright, we're in Eus Domain for real this time. And you might not remember, but in the first video, Eus Domain was the hardest part due to the fact that I had no locus. But now with infinite lives, Eus Domain is the easiest, even with that one puzzle. And compared to B138, which took me 2 days, this entire brain took me 30 minutes. B141 is an identical freebie. I feel like I have a very specific memory talking about something about... Oh my god, I use about like 3 times in a sentence. What the hell? Anyways, I have memories talking about something while playing B142 hard mode in the System Rager Discord server, but for the life of me I cannot remember what it is. 3 void reducers. B143 is... Where the hell is Gore? Oh yeah. Anyways, 2 void reducers. Brain 144 plays a funny joke on us by forcing us to pick up a locus to solve the puzzle with 2 void reducers. Brain 145 is barely a puzzle. I genuinely do not know how you were done on this brain. 0 void reducers. B146 has the exact same solution as normal mode, just with exploit tiles this time. 1 void reduce. B147 I solved in like 2 seconds with 6 void reducers. I have no idea how I did that. Same with B148, but that one took 0 void reducers. B149 is a freebie yet again, and according to my notes, my computer crashed, so that's probably how I solved the other puzzles in like 30 seconds. B150 and 151 are both 0 void reduce brains that are about getting a mimic to stand on a specific position. Brain 152 might just be the most iconic brain in the game, at least one of its worst monines, if not maybe the most difficult brain in the base game. And it definitely took the longest out of all of the brains in Eus Domain, taking me a staggering 4 minutes with a horrifying 10 void reducers. B153, 154, and 155 are all brains where the goal is to get 3 mimics to kill themselves. B153 takes 2 void reducers, B154 takes 0, and B155 takes 2. B156 is a very easy freebie, B157 is an identical freebie, and B158 is a decently challenging freebie. B159 feels deceptively easy, like I did it wrong but I still solved it in 0 Void Rod uses. B160 has a very fun 2 Void Rod solution. B161 annoys me because it's very obviously a 0 Void Rod solution, but I still have to solve it normally. B162, 164, and 165 are all Mimic focused 2 Void Rod use brains, but not B163. That one is a 0 Void Rod use Mimic focused brain, alongside B166 and 167. And lastly, B168 doesn't have any Mimics, but it's still a 0 Void Rod use brain. Ah, Eus Domain. I can't remember how, but I distinctly remember skipping past most of it on my first hard mode run, and since it has no memory crystals on hard mode, I never went back to it. So there's only one thing I know about it. B169 and B170 think they can just add a menacing shape to increase the Void Rod uses, but they're wrong. Both of these still take 0 Void Rod uses. I have nothing to say about B171, 5 Void Rod uses. I hate B172. It's not the hardest brain in the game, but it's up there for me. My favourite part is how it's somehow super cramped, but you still have to use bridging. My personal lowest is 30 Void Rod uses. But hey, B172 isn't that bad in hindsight when the greatest reward of all time is after it. Hard mode may be brutal as hell, but there's a reward that makes it all worth it. That's right, on B173 we get the greatest prize, Yuri. Wait, never mind, avoided. Well, B173 takes 3 Yuri-less Void Rod uses. Okay, a little secret between you and me, and don't tell anyone. I wasn't going to bring Nini with me anyways. Unlike the Thief side quest, which doesn't add to your total amount of Void Rod uses, Nini's side quest does. Anyways, back to Lev's Yuri-less domain. B174 and 175 are both 0 Void Rod use brains. B176 is a pretty fun 4 Void Rod use solution. B177 is where I killed Nini on my first hard mode playthrough, but without her here it's a very easy 0 Void Rod brain, alongside B178, B179, and B180. B181 horrifies me because it is incredibly open-ended, and after a long time both in the initial recording and on a second run through, my personal lowest was 36 Void Rod uses. B182 is another puzzle made far easier without Nini, 0 Void Rod uses, alongside B183 and B184. B185 is a very easy 4 Void Rod use brain, and B186 is a very easy 2 Void Rod use brain. According to my script, B187 were able to solve in 4 Void Rod uses. Great English, me. B188 I struggled to find the puzzle even with Nini. Okay, never mind actually, I just saw the left statue, my bad. 0 Void Rod uses. Okay, so for me, B189 scares me because I have absolutely no clue how the hell you're supposed to do this with Nini. 0 Void Rod uses. B190 is identical to the original, but normally you would have Nini. 2 Void Rod uses. In B191, for some reason I wrote that it took 0 Void Rod uses in my notes, even though it takes 2 Void Rod uses. B192 is normally a very sad brain, but here it's a celebration because it takes 0 Void Rod uses. B193 also takes 0 Void Rod uses, and B194 takes 4 Void Rod uses. While we're still in Eus Domain, I think now's an apt time to say something I was going to say in the True Ending video, but I forgot. And that's that I want to congratulate Void Changer on being the second game I played in 2024 with a Sea Angel as the antagonist. Okay, I'm being quiet because it's midnight, but I was just editing the video, and despite me being super excited to talk about it, I didn't actually say the name of the game. It's The Aquarium Does Not Dance. Anyways, back on track. Our last brain is a bridging brain. Some may consider it a punishment for not doing any side quests. I consider it a warning for what's coming up. 24 Void Rod uses is my personal lowest. Our last brain is an identical tree brain like every other domain. I don't know why I include these ones. Okay, it is the 27th of February as I'm recording this, and I wanted this to be out by March. So I've got to hurry up, seeing as I haven't even written the script for the alphabet domain yet, and it's been raining the last couple of days and my microphone just loves to pick it up, so I haven't been able to record audio. Alright, to start off, B197 and B198 are identical at 0 void reducers. B199 takes 14 void reducers. B200 takes 2 void reducers, and for some reason I took a longer 4 void reduce path on my first playthrough, despite the 2 void rod solution being rather obvious. I find it funny that B201 just adds an extra shade tile and calls it a day. 1 void reduce. B202 and 203 both cannot be solved in anything other than 2 void reducers. B204 is the return of an old nemesis of mine, the second highest void reduce brain in the base game. But luckily they removed the bridging part and now it only takes 14 void reducers. B205 I also find funny because it's pretty much just a memory crystal puzzle from normal mode, 12 void reducers. B206 is just the original with 1 immovable lev statue, 0 void reducers. B207 and 208 have some of my favourite solutions in the game. B207 takes 6 void reducers and B208 takes 4. B209 takes 10 void reducers, but past me seems to think otherwise for some reason as I spent way longer on this brain after I already solved it. B210 takes 4 void reducers and you can tell that just by looking at it. At least after you realise you can't get past the bottom left leech. B211 takes 3 void reducers, but unfortunately you can't use the walk on the UI strategy this time. B212 has the same solution but with double the void reducers and as a beaver instead of a menacing shape, 8 void reducers. B213 you can tell it takes 0 void reducers just by looking at it, but unfortunately this one still took me a while. B214 I'm not a big fan of, 8 void reducers. B215 took me a while because I forgot menacing shapes can't see you through a shade, 4 void reducers. B216 takes 2 void reducers. I hate B217. I'm pretty sure the only difference between this one and the original is that there's more shade tiles, so that's just great. 28 void reducers. Okay, remember the old highest void reduce brain in the game? B218. If memory serves it takes 56 void reducers. Well, this is the hard mode version. Yeah, it takes 4 void reducers now, and you can tell it takes 4 void reducers just by looking at it. I'm not really a big fan of B219. Any brain that's about manipulating menacing shapes that isn't in a tiny space, I probably won't be a fan of. 8 void reducers. I should probably say this just in case you're wondering why this domain has the highest pain rating, when I haven't made it out to be all that bad yet. Well, it's mainly because this domain just took me the longest by a decent margin. Most of these brains take me about 10 to 30 minutes, and there aren't any brains that would change in hard mode that I'm able to see the solution and just solve it instantly like in most other domains. Back on track. B220 is another very low space shade brain, 8 void reducers. B221 easily took me the longest out of every brain in this domain, but I can't really judge how long it took since I seem to take a break in the middle of it while still recording, 14 void reducers. B222 is unchanged but the failure is still there, 0 void reducers, alongside B223 and B224, though I didn't go to B223 this time as it's pointless. Okay, thanks to some comments in the last video I was able to realise something. I was clearly on something when I made the last music ranking, what the hell was that? Anyways, here's the new ranking on screen now. Feel free to disagree and leave your own ranking in the comments. Seeing your comments makes me really happy. Back to the domain proper, and here we're starting off like most other domains. B225 and B226 are... Oh god, there's another NPC.
If these puzzles get any harder, I might have to step in.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Silence, you ruined my aura farming. I'm on that Piccolo type shit. Man, I'm so cool.
Can you speak like a normal person?
God, you're ruining everything. Just go leave me alone.
What? I need to get as far away as possible from this guy. Okay, now that that's over, B225 and B226 are identical to the original at 0. Anyways, back on track again for real this time. B228, 229, and 230 all take 2 Voidrod uses. And I think this might be the longest chain of the same number of Voidrod uses in a row that isn't 0. B231 takes 6 Voidrod uses and all of them are used trying to get over to the W. Man, I had an entire punchline with B232 that required it to have 6 Voidrod uses, but it actually takes 8, and the punchline went into B233 which takes 12 Voidrod uses, but now everything's ruined because I can't do maths. B234 takes 2 Voidrod uses. B235 is large on the Voidrod use count, taking 32 Voidrod uses. B236 takes 6 Voidrod uses. B237 has this really annoying part where the enemies won't collide unless you take away one of the tiles, making this brain take 10 Voidrod uses. B238 is a very long bridging brain that takes 40 Voidrod uses. I like the fact that B239 tricks you into thinking you need to get rid of the enemies, but you don't. It only takes 6 Voidrod uses. Despite tending not to like Mimic and Shade Brains in hard mode, I actually like B240 and B241. B240 takes 4 Voidrod uses and B241 takes 2. I love the fact that B242 basically forces you to learn about UI stuff. Like, at this point you would have went through roughly 497 brains without noticing, and here it just teaches you. After that incredible brain we have B243, which is a very forgettable 4 Voidrod use brain. B244 is a very easy 4 Voidrod use brain, and B245 is a very easy 2 Voidrod use brain, but I guess there isn't really much you can do with the eye shape. I actually really like B246. Can't describe why, but I really like it. 4 Voidrod uses. B247 requires you to play Ring Around the Rosie with the menacing shape. Unfortunately, you have to beat out the shape once before being able to complete the brain. 10 Voidrod uses. B248 is just another bridging brain. 28 Voidrod uses. B249 throws us a bone by having the puzzle be getting the memory crystal instead of just going to the stairs. 0 Voidrod uses. B250 has a fun solution where you have to bump the top part of the screen in order to solve the puzzle. 10 Voidrod uses. Strange that seeing the letter C makes me feel both a relief and a sadness. We're so close to the end, but also the end of this challenge run trilogy. Obviously, unless I decide to do EX mode. 14 Voidrod uses. B252 is our last brain about getting enemies to collide into each other. 2 Voidrod uses. B253 is our last conventional brain, and guess what? It's a bridging brain. No, it's a shade bridging brain, even better. And I have to ask, is this brain possible without taking part of the UI away? It's how I solved it, and I don't think there's a way to do it, but I really haven't tried that hard. Anyways, definitely not for Voidrod uses. I'm gonna edit this clip into for the actual count. What the hell? Me from the future, it's 30 Voidrod uses. And B254 takes 0 Voidrod uses like normal. But I wanted to say something I find funny, which was that the original amount of Voidrod uses for the alphabet domain was 255 before I shaved it down to 246. Okay, it's time for our final challenge. Or, that might be what you're expecting. However, you don't actually need to solve the Lily ending puzzle's The Only Reward is Story. If it makes you feel better though, we actually have a choice. We either go through Lily's ending puzzles, or we go to B255, exit the game and reopen. Both take 0 Voidrod uses. So, if you want to be technical, B255 is a hard mode brain that takes less Voidrod uses on hard mode than a normal mode. Either way, after solving the brain we get our final cutscene. Good god, I've just solved 255 hellish puzzles with 1,367 Voidrod uses. Another one bites the dust. I expected them to give up ages ago, especially after B138. Anyways, I didn't expect them to get stoned. I didn't know they could do that. I guess my joke was that good. Oh hey Ad, what's up? Oh man, this one took a while. It really felt like I was running out of steam near the end, and I'm not sure if you could tell, but I could not recreate the voice for B I did last time. Also, I just can't tell if the final bit was creative genius or me going insane. I'm pretty fond of the other two though. Anyways, 1,367 Void Rod uses. That is a lot. I wish it was below 1,000, but I've got no clue if that's possible. It saddens me that this series is over, but I do have some small Void Stranger ideas, but I don't really plan on becoming an entirely Void Stranger channel, and I don't have any long form Void Stranger video ideas right now. Maybe a director's commentary on like this video and the other two, but I think I'm the only one who would find that interesting. I might do some shorter, less edited videos on some voice changer related stuff, since there are two things that have caught my attention, but who knows, I may not find those interesting enough to make into a video. But I do have some plans for challenge runs on these games, and I do want to try some video essay type videos on these games. Anyways, I've decided that there's only one way I can end this video, and if you've seen any of my shitposts, you should know what I'm talking about. Thank you all for watching, and see you all in my next arranged challenge run.